And welcome back to ZDA Network's official MLB podcast, Ducks on the Pond, little World Series preview edition. Welcoming us on the show, Jesse Rogers. Jesse covers the Cubs as well as all of the MLB for ESPN. Jesse, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, hello from Dallas, Arlington, where the World Series is going to be played. Luckily, don't have to travel, but have to wear a mask for all 7 games or however many they play. Really strange to see the playoffs and the World Series in one park with, I guess, at least we'll have some fans, but really not the hometown fans. There will be more Dodger fans than Rays fans. I can tell you that, traveling from LA. But still, only 10,000, so they won't make much of a difference in terms of the energy, though it'll be a little bit.
For sure. Definitely will be an interesting experience. Obviously, you're neutral here and not really rooting for a team, but just going in, who are you giving the overall edge to? I mean, obviously the Rays avoid a collapse, win Game 7. Dodgers on the other end of that come all the way back to win Game 7. Now they're facing each other.
Well, it's one of those things. I actually picked the Rays like back in February, March, I think, to win it all. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But I did like the Rays early on. A lot of people did. I like the Dodgers kind of narrative that I don't want to use the word choke, but they always come up short, right? Right. Kevin Kiermaier, the outfielder for the Rays, said it today. It's like the Dodgers are in the World Series like every year. We're just here for the first time. So it'd be a great storyline if like the team with the least payroll beats the team with the most, basically.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to happen. I'm changing my pick. The Dodgers just are too deep in the lineup. Something we knew, but I wanted to see it to be sure. And here's the thing about baseball people don't talk about. It's a left-hander's game. Every team any contender has to have left-handed pitching and left-handed hitting. It's so key. We don't think of it that often, but it is so important. The Rays are very balanced, but they were only like 9-8 versus lefties in the regular season. And right now, the Dodgers are hitting lefties like 200 points higher than the Rays OPS. So that's very important. And I think between Kershaw, hopefully it's the Kershaw, the Dodgers expect. Urias, the lefty reliever, is 4-0 in the playoffs with a .56 ERA. The Rays don't hit lefties as well as they should. And I think that's going to be the difference. The Dodgers they just keep coming at you with their offense. So that's kind of the way I look at it. But I'd say, I was talking to someone earlier tonight, I'd give the Rays a 25% chance of winning the series. It's not like it can't be done. They have great pitching. Think of this. Snell, Glasnow, and Charlie Morton, who's amazing. That's 3 pretty good ones. And now you have off days. I think that helps the Rays, who are maybe not as deep as the Dodgers overall.
For sure.
Yeah, personally, I've really liked how they managed that team too. Where, a few years ago, they started using the bullpen starters and then bringing in. I feel like they're one of those teams that they can rely on that starting pitching, but as well as just managing their pitching staff and their lineup in general. I feel like that's where they might have that edge over the Dodgers, whereas, the Dodgers just rely on that, depth and talent that they do have. I think, especially in the playoffs, it comes to play,
Yeah, they've really manipulated things well down in Tampa. And I contend that any manager or GM should work at a small market, kind of like Joe Madden did in Tampa, and then go to a big market, because you take those small market values with you and you utilize them. You really have to find the diamonds in the rough when you're working for the Tampa Bay Rays. And as a manager, you have to deploy them exactly the right way. I asked Kevin Cash tonight how difficult it was to manage 7 in a row compared to what he's going to manage, which is more of a normal playoff series. He said it's based night and day. You're trying to save a pitcher here, save a pitcher there, and you don't know if you're going to have another night. And then they're up 3-0. Okay, we have some leverage. We have a little leash here, and it's 3-1, that's 3-2. So it was so difficult, never having a breather. I think this will be, again, a little bit of an advantage for Tampa, having those days off, and they can really manipulate how they want to use their pitchers the best way. Now their starters can go in the bullpen late in the series, which you couldn't really do in playing 7 days in a row. So that's a big difference now, having 2 off days.
You mentioned how you're just kind of giving the edge to the Dodgers, but if the Rays do find a way to win and the Dodgers just come up on the short end of the stick again, just from your perspective, what do the Dodgers do as an organization? Like, do you have to fire Dave Roberts at that point?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I don't think so. I think in a 60-game season where you get to the World Series again and you come up short, I mean, unless his in-game errors are egregious, I don't think so. Now, maybe you give him one more year, and then after that, you just switch it up to switch it up. Not that he's necessarily doing anything wrong. I mean, I know you guys are Cub fans, so take it back to the Cubs. They win the World Series, and they've come up short since, but you could be the Dodgers, right? You could be winless in the World Series, and if they lose again here, the reminder is it is really hard to win a World Series. We haven't had a repeat in a long time. Getting there is tough, and then just even winning it is tough, as the Dodgers have shown. So it's not easy. And I don't think you can fire Dave Roberts. 60 games, best record. They get to the World Series. I mean, I don't know if they get swept or something weird happens. Okay, you entertain that thought, but I'd probably give him one more year. And then you have to say, okay, we just need a new voice if you don't win at all.
Definitely. It would seem a little unfair to fire someone after this short of a season, especially considering you at least made the World Series. I would agree there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the right thing to do. Now, if they come up short 2 days ago, maybe it's different. I don't know. I mean, everything, you've got to take into consideration everything. And you usually don't think one game can make the difference, but when it's this close of a team that's this close, maybe one game does make a difference. So maybe winning the other night saved his job. Who knows?
Definitely.
That being said, I mean, like we're saying, the Dodgers are heavily favored this series. Does that put a lot of pressure on their shoulders? I mean, because they haven't been able to get it done the past, 4, 5, 6, however many years it's been that they've been one of the top dogs in the league. Does that kind of put a lot of pressure on them to succeed and win this championship? Or do you have a sense that there's, talking to the team and the coaches, that this year feels a little different for them?
No, I think they're about the only team that would feel the pressure of all 30 teams. If any of them made the World Series, I think they'd feel the most pressure because of their past failures. I think there's no pressure on the Rays, and I don't think there'd be much pressure on other teams. But I think with the Dodgers, I know that the way baseball people think and the way I was saying before, you only get so many kicks at the can, and next year, I don't know, Kershaw, his back might take him out a season. Bellinger might tear something. You're just never guaranteed anything. What looks like a dynasty can fall apart. We know that with the Cubs. And, if they lose this year, they might lose in the first round next year. I mean, you just don't know. So I do think there's some pressure on them. And I don't know how much they feel it, but they know it's there. They know they've come up short. They know that people are like, oh, here come the Dodgers again. How are they going to lose this time? Because they've lost the last few times. So I think it's all sort of baked into the whole situation here. And I do think there's some pressure on them.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe just the way they won the CS kind of takes some of that pressure off, just knowing they had their backs against the wall, all that pressure was on them, then they find a way to come through, beat the Braves, kind of maybe gives them a feeling like they have nothing to lose, or they're kind of not afraid of the pressure now?
No, I don't think so. I do think, though, that comeback and even just Game 7, just the 4-3 win, come from behind, they feel like they can overcome anything at this point. Their confidence is sky high because they push back every attempt at dethroning them. Regular season, everybody loved the Padres. We're the Padres, right? Playoffs, people looking for reasons. I had the Reds beating the Dodgers. I mean, it's just crazy things happening, right? And they keep pushing all these comers back. And I just think that they feel like whatever they're up against, they'll overcome. And it partly because of the way they came back in that series, but I also just think Game 7, it looked bad early. It's 2-0 in the first inning. The Braves made that base running error, and that opened the door. And then they trail again 3-2, and then it's 3-3. And I just feel like they're so confident that that's the overriding feeling more than the pressure. But the pressure's still there.
Right.
You've got to think that the Rays, though, with no pressure on them, they've kind of had that chip on their shoulder, underdog mentality this whole playoffs. Even though they had the best record in the AL, they go up against the big bad Yankees, they take them out. They go against a hot Astros team that's been there, won the World Series, they take them out. I mean, at this point for them, maybe it's like, what are the Dodgers, compared to what they've been facing this playoffs already?
Yeah, part of the reason I picked the Rays in March or whatever was because they seem to be the most complete American League team. And then when they redid the format in June or July, I liked them even more because to win, and it's not a surprise the top two seeds made it because these two teams are really well balanced. And to win 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, you're going to need everybody. You're going to need top of the order, bottom of the order, middle relief, you closer, and the more depth you have, the better chance you have. So I feel like it makes sense in this year that both top seeds advanced. So I think the Rays more than anything aren't necessarily playing the underdog role. They're just playing the like we're deep and we have all our bases covered, so to speak. We can play defense. We can starting pitch. We can do this. And yeah, they do some unconventional things with openers and stuff because they need to. But they don't really have a big weakness. Now I mentioned against left-handed pitching, they were 9-8 in the regular season. All right, only 17 games though, so even that's a little different. And they actually their OPS against lefties was higher than you would think with a team that's 500. So I still don't think they have much of a weakness. And now they found this rookie that is lighting up, lighting the world on fire.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's always guys like that you kind of don't expect coming into the postseason that can change an entire team. I mean, you had a bunch of other guys this year for the Rays contributing at the plate, but then you got a Rosarena coming in the playoffs, and you're like, wow, this adds a whole nother dynamic to the lineup.
Yeah, Rosarena, listen to this. Take him out of the last series. The Rays hit under 200. That's incredible to me.
Wow.
And still won a 7-game series, or I think I have that right. Or it may have been the postseason, the whole postseason. If you take him out, they're hitting under 200 over some sample size. The point is, I think the Dodgers see that. And, yeah, anything could change in a new series, but I'd be shocked if Kershaw allowed this guy to beat him tomorrow night. Now, I don't know about the rest of the series, but I would think in game 1, the way the Rays have been not hitting, Kershaw is going to make everybody but Arozarena beat him. And so that's where there's all these little things that I think favor the Dodgers going into game 1. Dodgers have been here in Arlington for 10 days. They played in this ballpark a bunch already, where the Rays saw it for the first time 2 hours ago. Mm-hmm. So there's all these little things. You saw Mookie Betts go up and steal some home runs. I mean, that helps playing in the stadium a few days in a row. So I think there's a few things that favor the Dodgers right off the bat. And having played Sunday night is not a big deal. Usually you play and then you leave, you go travel somewhere. They had Monday off. Game's not till tomorrow night. It's 48 hours off. Especially in the bubble, it's going to feel like a 4-day break for them. So I'm not concerned that the Rays had 1 extra day off.
Just overall, is your gut kind of telling you, with all that in mind, that it's going to be more of a pitcher's duel or a game where pitchers struggle? Obviously, Glasnow's had his command issues in the playoffs and during the season, especially when he gets past the 4th or 5th inning there, whereas obviously Kershaw has had his playoff struggles in the past as well.
Yeah, my feeling is now I picked the Dodgers in 5, but that might be because I want to get back home as quickly as I can. I mean, I like the Rays. But what I was going to say is whatever games the Rays win are probably going to be 3-2, 4-1, that kind of thing. The Dodgers probably will win a game or two like that as well. But then the Dodgers have the ability to win 7-2, 9-3, something like that. I don't think the Rays can do that against this pitching staff the way they've been hitting in a new ballpark with sight lines, all these little things come into play. So I think for the most part it's going to be low scoring, but there'll be at least a game, at least one, if not two, where the Dodgers go off. I don't know which one it'll be because, again, Morton's been great. It could be first game Glasnow, could be Snell. But one of those first four games, the Dodgers are going to go off and win one easily, in my opinion. Doesn't mean the Rays can't win a couple 3-2 games and make a series of it. But I just feel like the Dodgers have the ability to stretch it out.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, so these two teams, they both got a couple of super hot hitters. We touched on Arozarena earlier. Mm-hmm. Then you got Corey Seager. I feel like everyone kind of forgot about, last year because he was hurt. Comes back and he's, the MVP of the NLCS and just tearing it up for that team. Who do you think Who's the hotter hitter out of those two, and who do you think will kind of carry that momentum on throughout the World Series more?
My answer to that question is Bellinger. I think he woke up the other night with that home run, and this is what I'm talking about, the left-handed hitters. I mean, it's a bonus if they can hit left-handed pitching, which a few of the Dodgers, Seager can, Bellinger can, Muncy not really against lefties. Peterson definitely can hit lefties. But left-handed power, so important in the game. You face so many righties, and those are just 35 times a year where you can go deep off a right-handed pitcher, and then you get a few off a lefty. All of a sudden, you have 40 home run. Anyway, I think Bellinger woke up the other night and is going to go on a tear. The guy just can really rake. Usually, when a guy's hot, one series cools off. I expect Seager to cool off a little bit. But I think Muncy and Bellinger from the left side could really wake up here.
They seem like they always got the clutch hitting too. Whenever they need a hit from one of those two guys, they come up, especially this last series.
Yeah, I mean, they're just too deep. They're too deep. You had the DH. Justin Turner was talking today on the Zoom. You had the DH. Now, that was a team that really could use the DH. They have so many hitters. I actually didn't think the DH was all that helpful to the Cubs going into it, but it actually turned out to be okay because they have two catchers, and that gets two catchers in the lineup that can hit. But a team like the Dodgers, they have 10 legit, 11 legit starters that can't play every day. Well, now a 10th can, and so the DH really helps the Dodgers lineup.
I'm just curious, Jesse, before we let you go, with all that in mind about the DH, do you think it's going to be hard for the MLB to go back to no DH in the NL after this?
I do. There's a collective bargaining agreement up in a year, so it was going to be a topic anyway. I can't imagine they go back to the old way and then a year from now they bring the DH in for good. I think it's probably here for good. There's a lot of things underneath the surface about it. I mean, it's a negotiating tactic. So each side might pretend like they don't want the DH just to use it as a negotiating play, but I think both sides do. I still kind of like the idea of the strategy with the pitcher, but I got used to it real quick this year watching National League Baseball, so I imagine it's here to stay.
I agree. I always love seeing pitchers hit, and I always thought it was very satisfying seeing like John Lester hit a homer or Jake Arrieta go yard when you have to have a pitcher in the lineup. But at the same time, this has kind of made me realize how ridiculous in a sense it is for the pitchers to hit. I mean, these guys don't practice their hitting, after high school sometimes, and then they're forced to go hit in the MLB.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it both ways, though. I mean, you're probably adding another home run or strikeout guy. At least with the pitcher, there was some strategy. The defense was moving. Is he going to bunt? Is he going to swing away? I like the idea of some pitchers work at their hitting better than others, and they're like Kyle Hendricks used to talk about that. If I got better at the plate, I might stay in games longer. So there's all sorts of little things that I think are cool with the pitcher hitting. But I didn't miss it that much. I must admit, watching the National League this year.
For sure. I agree. All right. Well, we won't get off the topic. Jesse, thank you for joining us on here, giving us your thoughts on the World Series. We'll be sure to follow you.
You got it, guys. Have a good one. Take care.
Appreciate it, Jesse.